You know, I hope we don't have a repeat of last night. Unfortunately, I'm not terribly confident in that will happen. And now law enforcement has this curfew tool to immediately begin making arrests. But I will tell you what is going to be different from last night to tonight is there are significantly more amounts of law enforcement here. And they have already today, and here we see, so CHP, fireworks going on.
Fireworks already.
Yep, and I think CHP already was shooting off some flashbangs. So we'll see if that continues. And if they'll continue to do that. But we're already kind of escalating the situation. This has been the, aside from getting on the freeway earlier, this has been the most, kind of activity, if you will, that we've seen. You see somebody down there in the crosswalk that looks like they're trying to, basically tell both sides, relax, let's not kind of start
And again, it's not the majority of the folks that are out here, Mike. We've been talking about these agitators well known to the LAPD that mix in. My guess is they're the ones that have the fireworks. They're the ones that throw the first rock or the first bottle, which creates then that tension between officers and the crowd. And they fire into the crowd because that's where the rocks or the bottles are coming from.
Sure. We've also been hearing reports of people impersonating media members, members of the media going into the crowd with their bottles and whatever they want to throw at officers and impersonating and saying that I'm a member of the media. I have a right to be here. What you're looking at live here is people, protesters still in downtown LA tonight for a fifth night, actually.
And it looks, Susie, that there's a man of faith there in the middle. He's wearing like a white robe.
We've seen many actually out there kind of, trying to, keep the peace.
See him right there,
making sure that protests don't get out of hand, even if it's just, that single man doing that. I'm sure it does make a big difference.
You mentioned the interfaith gathering at Gloria Molina Park. Our Lori Perez was there. We want to go to KCAL news reporter Tom Waite to see whether or not people are actually observing that curfew, getting ready to respect it. Right now, it doesn't look like it, Tom.
And good evening to you, Juan. We are on Los Angeles Street, just across from the Federal Complex, and you can see there is a small crowd gathered here, smaller than it was just a few minutes ago, possibly because people know about the curfew that is starting in just a few minutes here, 2 minutes really. It affects all of downtown LA, and there's still a lot of people out here, very peaceful all this afternoon. For the most part, there's people out here tagging buildings, but there's been no violent confrontations that we have seen. A lot of peaceful marching, a very diverse crowd of people, young, old, and just all coming together and marching through downtown LA. They kind of made a big loop. They went all the way down to downtown or DTLA Live, and then they came back here, and they're gathered back in front of this federal building complex. Just on the other side of this building is the federal detention complex. That's where all of this kind of erupted on Friday night, and then of course we've had subsequent evenings of violent clashes between police and protesters. So now, of course, we're all kind of waiting on pins and needles to see what will happen, how and if they enforce this curfew. And given how serious it seemed that the mayor and the police chief of LAPD were in this press conference a couple hours ago talking about the enforcement of this, it would appear that they mean business. We'll see. You can see there's a long line of officers in front of the building right now. Those are federal officers. That's our understanding. I did just see a couple of armored vehicles about 15 minutes ago kind of heading toward this area. I don't know their destination. It was just a couple of them that came through. So I don't know where those ended up. We really haven't seen any National Guard troops or anything like that on the ground. It's been all LAPD the last few days. If whatever personnel they have here, they've either been in the complexes or in the buildings, potentially ready to defend them from the inside. We have not seen them on the outside. So now, again, this crowd is kind of thinning out just a little bit. I mean, it's still a lot of people here, a lot of cars parked here, but I think that a lot of people are aware, again, of this curfew and, are concerned about it. I can see, again, just a range of different people here that were out here marching and holding candles and chanting together and talking together. There was a lot of solidarity, camaraderie. It was such a contrast to what we've seen in the later evenings here in the past few days. Obviously, if you've watched any of our coverage, you've seen just kind of how awful it's gotten with, protesters firing fireworks into police lines, and then the response has been tear gas and other non-lethal, less than lethal means, rubber bullets, things like that to disperse the crowds. We'll see if that happens now. They, in last night really did not take much time after declaring an unlawful assembly to really move in and enforce. Right now, though, the crowd very peaceful, but chanting, and many of them stationary, and now, kind of coming back toward this way. And you see there on the outskirts, there are a lot of people holding flags. And then, Anna, look at, if we spin over just over there, there's more people coming back. That was thinning out. Now we're seeing a lot more people coming back toward where we are right now, just in front of the building. Just raises the question, how do you clear this many people peacefully walking through the area? And I mean, there's a little girl I see in front of me, can't be older than 5 or 6, down there with possibly her parents. There's young people here, teenagers. There's elderly folks that we've seen out here just peacefully walking through the area. Maybe they're unaware of the curfew that was announced.
Well, Tom, earlier
there hasn't been any kind of like. Go ahead.
During the 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock hours, you were walking with some protesters. Were there any audible announcements that were being made by law enforcement out there about the curfew?
No, because at that point it had not been announced. It was just before, so we had just started going through. There was like some breaking news alerts that it was likely impending, but at that point, no. And it was such a different vibe and feeling walking with those folks. Everyone just really kind of coming together in a kind of harmonious way. It was a very it was the kind of thing you like to see, because everyone, big crowd, demonstrating together, making their voices heard, right? Sharing in this unified kind of resistance to what they believe is unfair and unjust ICE immigration raids. And I'm seeing what looks like clergy walking through right now. So yeah, I mean, it may be just because people are sort of out and about and they didn't know about this, but of course everyone has a phone. Lots of people get breaking news alerts, social media, things like that. So you'd think people would know, but I would, at this point, maybe they're just waiting to see if things kind of de-escalate on their own, and if the crowd kind of thins out on its own. We'll see if the last few nights are any sort of barometer for how this is going to go. It wasn't great. Obviously, we saw a number of times where police ordered the crowd to disperse. They did not. But once again, now it does feel like they're kind of thinning out the crowd. But you can hear a lot of people sort of revving their engines, just making a lot of noise, and sort of making their presence known. And it just begs the question, right? How do you come out here and clear a crowd this large? It kind of ebbs and flows, though. So in 1 minute, like just a few minutes ago, I'm sure you could tell it was just like packed out here, and now, once again, sort of thinning out a little bit, but still a very large crowd.
Yeah, there's a lot of space between the protesters, Tom. I'm seeing a lot more Mexican flags out there, which we didn't see over the last couple of days. Groups of 2 and 3 walking together very calmly there, kind of going back and forth in front of the federal building. So hopefully that's a good sign. The fact that we see members of the clergy out there that may have come from Gloria Molina Park to meet with protesters, and perhaps just their presence there along with protesters just keeps things nice and calm, which is what we're seeing right now. And I'm wondering, Tom, are you hearing anything over a loudspeaker regarding a curfew? Do you hear any announcements going on whatsoever?
You know what, Juan, there's a column of police cars coming here now. So here they come. They are coming in. We'll see what they're going to do now.
Okay, let's see.
5 minutes past the curfew now,
It's unclear if they're trying
Tom.
to block the road. Yeah, exactly. So the minute, it's funny that you say that. Right as that happened, now we're seeing police starting to roll in. They've done this so many times, right, in different ways. So they kind of phase it in. And, sometimes just the sound of the sirens is enough to make the crowd scatter. And it is having that effect, at least a little bit. I'm seeing people now kind of moving out of the area. And again, it was just really cool to see so many different kinds of people here from different backgrounds and so many, different ages. And you know, whatever your position is on an issue, it is pleasant to see people expressing their First Amendment rights in a very peaceful way, and that's what we've been witnessing. So now I think maybe now that column, they've parked just on the other side of the road, so that they're not right on the other side of Temple. So they are on the south. Oh shoot.
You okay, Tom? Tommy?
Yeah, sorry.
You okay?
The emergency alert signal was going through, and I hope you can't hear it.
No, we did not hear it.
It's going through my phone, and I'm trying to deactivate it.
We did not hear it, Tom.
Are you guys still there?
Yeah, we're here. We're here. Can you hear us, Tom?
We see the contingent of police officers that are on foot.
I think Tom's.
Okay, I've lost communication.
Yeah, he's lost communication
you can
with
hear
us.
Me, but I can't hear you. So Anna's going to give me my cues, our photographer here on the scene. All right, they are now moving in with police. There's a police call moving in. There's officers. You can see the reaction from the crowd is pretty intense here. People are scattering. And there's definitely an active urgency here. People are leaving.
Yeah.
It does feel very chaotic, but it's still orderly. People aren't throwing anything. People aren't doing anything violent, so that's good. We love to see that. And that's. Oh, okay. We're seeing someone throw some water bottles now.
Well, if Tom got that alert, Mike, most likely everybody else
nothing
did
so
too,
far
right?
to set the crowd into frenzy. At least that's the good news. And then. Yeah, I mean, look, you saw how fast most of the people cleared out when the officers moved in. Yeah, it's very intense here. I'm going to send it back to you for just a second here so you can watch, and I'm going to try to dial back in so I can hear communication again. So go ahead.
Yeah, we'll have you dial back in, Tom. Thank you so much. Mike, question for you. Do you know, based on where the police officers are there, if people are being told to leave, what route can they take to get out of there?
So John and I were just looking at that. So you've got you've got Los Angeles Street blocked on three sides here at Arcadia, and then on the other side you have the two on-ramps that are blocked that would go parallel to the freeway, or the on-ramp and the road parallel to the freeway. John's going to go back down. Now you've got them blocking the other side of Los Angeles at Temple and moving forward. So they basically can go on either side of Temple. But look, LAPD is not messing around. They're going to start kettling here very, very quickly. And for those, we explained this earlier, but kettling is when they surround these everybody on all sides. Here comes the mounted unit as well. And they are immediately going to start making arrests. I mean, this is what we were talking about. They have the power of law enforcement. They have enough numbers tonight to get this done. So they are very quickly swarmed the area. They're very quickly breaking this up. And now you see skirmish lines, both sides of Temple, one side of Los Angeles Street there. So there's not anybody that is left here does not have a lot of places to go. And I would venture to guess if they are not out of here in the next 40 seconds or so, then they are going to be in a situation where they will be kettled and will be taken into custody.
All right, let's go back out now to our Tom Waite live there on the ground. Tom, what's changing out there since this curfew has been in order?
Yeah, it's wow, what a change in just a few seconds. Really incredible how quickly police moved in here and really just flooded the zone and really wasted no time in getting in here and showing their presence, making it known. And now you've got police set up on skirmish lines. We'll see if the folks that are left here challenge the officers on scene. They've got their less than lethal weapons ready to go. They've got batons. They're in riot gear, zip ties. The mounted unit here on the scene, as Mike Rogers pointed out, the crowd right in front of the building is completely gone. I'm looking over there right now. This is really the scatter effect was incredible. People dispersed and moved quickly. Let's see now. I'm trying to see if anyone's. Yeah, you can see over there. Look, the crowd completely gone. And now you can see officers giving orders down here, telling people to leave, giving them a little bit of grace here. Even though the curfew is technically in effect, people are still being allowed to leave without being arrested. But, you know, who knows how long that will last. This will be very, very an intense enforcement if history serves as any barometer of how these things go down. And right now we are seeing a very thorough and intense action. And, you know, we expected this. We knew that the LAPD was ready. They're coming in from all directions, north, south, east, and west. They are coming in with different types of vehicles, the horses, the mounted unit here, and not allowing any sort of. They've got their less than lethal gun, weapons here, and ready to take action. I don't think there's going to be a lot of. Okay, now people are starting to throw things, and I don't know where that came from. Where was that from? All right, so we'll see how police react to that. So far, it's just been a couple of things, but if that keeps going, okay, there's people with their hands up down here. So now some of these folks may want to be arrested in an act of civil disobedience to make a statement. We'll see if that's the case. But wow, what a swarm.
Putting their hands up, that's of course in allusion to the George Floyd protest saying "Don't shoot." To police, using that as a protest method. And, this all came about today, this curfew that took effect tonight at 8 o'clock and ends at 6 a.m. in the morning tomorrow morning. This all, came to be because of the fact that there was so much happening in downtown LA in this 1 square mile where this curfew is happening. Yeah. Mike, we're talking about looting. We're talking about people who are graffitiing walls, and we have to have time to clean that up, first of all.
Yeah, and they were briefly the mayor's office was briefly asked the cost that all this is going to, and they don't know, but a person from the mayor's office easily said over $1 million at least, and that's just getting started here. I want to ask John to go back in front of the federal courthouse. You're looking at some of the Ventura County Sheriff's deputies and other allied agencies that are helping, but I thought I saw an arrest going down right here in front of the federal courthouse, so I couldn't tell, or maybe not anymore, but the group that is in here, we'll see if, they're at this point, they're pretty kettled. So you've got mounted unit skirmish line here, back John on the other side. We've got another skirmish line over there. So the people that are in that section right now, if they don't retreat up those steps, they will likely be arrested, as you see the LAPD now moving in here, and we'll see if they start taking people into custody. They're moving quickly. I have to say, we've covered, we keep bringing it up in its most recent ones, the 2020 protests. I don't know that even then I saw such a fast and such a large response from law enforcement to deal with this situation. They came in quick, they came in hot, and they let that crowd know that we are not here to play. The curfew is in effect, and you need to leave. And you've got mounted units from both LAPD and the CHP here. You've got a huge contingency of officers there, and now you've got everybody continuing to move in. And basically, if you're in this area and you don't have business in this area and a legitimate purpose to be here, you are subject to arrest. And it looks like that will probably be starting here any minute, as the last group of, I'll say stragglers are trying to kind of get up there. And look, now even LAPD is going up against the stairs right there. So that was kind of the last exit point for people to get out of this area if they weren't going to go on either side of Los Angeles Street, either from Temple or the street to the north there.
Well,
to the south.
Each year we learn a little more, right, Mike? The George Floyd protests, the pandemic, now we have this. And LAPD and the mayor's office has had 4 days to figure out what needs to be done. Perhaps the curfew was the best idea here because people, looks like they have scattered, they've moved out, law enforcement has moved in, and it's a very different scene that even just a few moments ago when we started broadcasting here. Yeah,
and I want to ask John really quick, if you see, John Schreiber's our photographer in SkyCal, as these guys are moving in even further, so they'll probably be arrested here soon. But John, can you tell if there's any large group that's marching or that kind of moved down the street at all, or did everybody kind of splinter off pretty significantly? As he's going to move down here a little bit. Yeah, John says he doesn't see any kind of large, group there. Everyone may have realized how serious law enforcement is here and just kind of, got out of Dodge. We see a group here just kind of walking, not necessarily in the street, but in the sidewalk and the crosswalk there. So the group may have gotten the message, which is exactly what the LAPD wanted, the mayor wanted, is to not have to deal with this in downtown tonight.
All right, let's go back out live now to our Tom Waite there live on the ground. Tom, have you seen things change at all, or people leaving?
Yeah, things are changing quite a bit. Things are changing quite a bit. We are being, we're in the crossfire of people throwing objects at police and spooking the horses. And they have officers pointed less than lethal. Look at this. They have less than lethal weapons pointed at us right now. because the crowd is throwing things into the crowd and at the horses, and one of the horses reacted, so now they are aiming those weapons toward us. We're trying to stay away from the crowd throwing things in.
Tom, are they pointing those towards
really quickly for a second?
Are they pointing towards you because
yes,
it was coming from your direction?
Yes,
those projectiles.
There's a crowd behind me that was there's a crowd behind me that was throwing things at them, and now now the police have moved in up here to clear the crowd from that spot where they were. And I just spin around real quick. This is the crowd that, like right there. This is where they were throwing things from into the police, and we were between them. And understandably, the officers didn't know where they are asking right now to see our credentials.
We can see you, Tom, from
So I'm
SkyCal.
showing my credentials here. Yeah.
As Tom is showing those officers his credentials, we also want to apologize to our viewers. If you do see any bad language on television scrawled on the walls in downtown LA, that's exactly why Mayor Karen Bass called for this curfew, because of the fact that there is so much graffiti in downtown LA, and dozens of businesses, 23 in fact, being vandalized overnight as well. So, this is what we're looking at, obviously a result of what's happened over the past few days, certainly not from people who have been peacefully protesting, but from those people who Tom was just referring to, people who are throwing things at officers, people who are, graffitiing walls as they walk past other protesters and vandalizing businesses. And, to people who live in downtown LA, who actually live there as residents, they don't want to see this nonstop.
Children, right?
Sure. I mean, night after night after night, this has been happening. And so you can understand why this curfew is being imposed. Again, Mayor Karen Bass making it very clear tonight that she's not trying to stop these protests from happening ever. That's not the case here. She wants the protests to go on, but not after this time at 8 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning. The
mayor was saying just about every building in this area has been tagged. Lots of graffiti on glass, on windows, on any surface that taggers could get their hands on. And it just looks terrible, she says. It's not a good look for downtown Los Angeles. If Tom is still listening, Tom, did they give you the all clear up there?
Yeah, so they just came over, checked our credentials, and asked us actually to stay where we are to give them space, they said, to continue enforcement.
Yeah.
And, I've never experienced that before, where, I mean, who knows if I didn't have our credentials, right? I mean, we've seen reporters arrested on live television. I was hoping that wasn't going to happen to us, and it did not, thankfully. We have our credentials here with our crew, and we're good to go, and we're able to show you these live pictures. But yeah, I mean, I don't blame these officers. They're sitting ducks, and people are throwing things at them, and the horse really, reacted, and you can understand that that's extremely dangerous. So everyone, this line of officers, this crowd of officers, just swings their, less than lethal weapons toward us, thinking, they don't know where this is coming from. And there's another level above us where people were throwing stuff from. That level has now been cleared out, so that's good. And now you can see the lines being formed here along Temple. And for the most part, it looks like their operation here has been very successful. There was a little bit of melee here, so I didn't see if anyone was arrested. It looked like they just sort of flushed everyone out, but there's still people here that are hanging out. Who knows what'll happen?
Well, we had you covered from SkyCal, Tom. We could see that interaction you were having with law enforcement from SkyCal. And luckily it all went as it should. And you're doing okay up there with Anna and your security there, who's just keeping us all safe as we're bringing these live pictures to our viewers from the downtown LA curfew now in effect, and these continuing protests against the ICE raids here in Southern California.
But as Tom mentioned, our view from SkyCal, you can definitely see the difference just in the past 10 minutes or so. This crowd really thinning out in downtown LA. I mean, really dispersed at this point. You can only see that little group of people that was next to Tom there, as far as our eyes can see, really. And you can see just a lot of uniformed officers out there and those patrol cars that are at the ready. And as Tom was mentioning, boy, this is a really successful operation, as we can see it, as far as we can see. At this time last night, we were seeing different factions of protesters still in downtown LA. Of course, there was no curfew last night, but the reason why, again, this curfew being put into place is because this has been the sort of the area, the hot spot for much of the violence that we've seen. Not a lot, but much of the violence that we've seen in these protests happening here in downtown LA, this 1 square mile that is now under this curfew tonight.
Indeed, and we're watching the situation unfold from SkyCal and from Tom Waite's ground camera right there. Officers there moving around quite a bit as this curfew is now 21 minutes into its in effect till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And again, Mayor Karen Bass said this was imposed because of the incredible amounts of graffiti which are all over the downtown area. And of course, our apologies to our viewers. We do our best to try to keep some of the profanity out, but it's everywhere. It's hard to miss. I mean, it's hard to keep it out of every shot, but we're doing our best to do that. And again, 23 businesses were looted over the last couple of days. There was the Apple store out there, the Adidas store, plus mom and pop shops, a sushi restaurant was also looted. And these are a lot of the mom and pop businesses as well who are tonight perhaps losing money because of the curfew. I also, Mike, maybe you know, a friend texted me about what happens if you have tickets for like a Disney concert hall performance or something at the music center. How do you get in and out? So
Yeah, I mean, technically, I would technically under the letter of the law, you wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Right.
If you don't live in downtown LA, if you're not, transiting to and from work, and I can try to get a copy of the order. The mayor has to declare a local state of emergency, which she did,
yeah.
And then put in a curfew, which she did. But under the letter of the law, the people that are exempt from this are people that live in the area, credentialed members of the press, as you saw Tom be questioned for that. So. I think there's what is the letter of the law, and then there's kind of what is the spirit of what they're trying to do here, which is go after people that are causing problems.
Right.
So, we dealt with that a lot during the pandemic when there was the stay-at-home orders, during the 2020 riots as well, where, they were targeting a specific group of people. Sure, the curfew order was applied to literally everyone that was within that jurisdiction, but it was used to target a very specific group of people that are causing problems. And I think that'll probably be the same situation. Now, downtown's a little bit different though, because these protesters have been so on the move. I mean, this is near the federal courthouse, but just before we came on the air, they were over at LA Live and Crypto.com Arena. So that's why it is the entirety of the downtown area where this curfew order is in place. And I'm just listening to some of the radio traffic because what they'll have to do, you've got the group right there on the right-hand side of the screen that really didn't move. They've kind of in that face-off situation. So now LAPD will likely try to be on the other side of them and kettle them again like they did with this group, and then maybe start affecting some arrests. We'll see, but that is a much smaller group that they're dealing with compared to what was there before.
I'm also curious, Susie and Mike, what if you have jury duty tomorrow and you'd like to be excused? You don't want to be driving into downtown Los Angeles tomorrow. Could you get out of it, or perhaps is our jury duty responsibilities being waived for now? That's another thing that.
And I can look. I mean, the court's usually pretty good about putting stuff on their website about that. So let me see if I can look.
So if you do have jury duty tomorrow, Mike's going to look. Perhaps we'll get some information. I know a lot of people have to call into a number.
Sure.
You put in your juror PIN number, and it gives you an idea whether you have to show up or not. But I'm guessing some people would possibly just like to avoid downtown LA over the next few days.
I would imagine it would make a pretty good excuse under jury duty laws. I don't know what the rules are, but I would imagine something like this would be.
You normally have to have a good excuse,
sure,
right,
exactly.
Susie, to avoid jury duty,
right?
And a good reason for that. And most of the judges have heard every excuse in the book, so it's just best to show up if you can. But again, different circumstance tonight, different situation.
That's right. And, for the first time, I think we're seeing protesters outnumbered by police officers. You can see, I mean, wow, the number of just the patrol cars out there and their lights shining like that, just the lines and rows of them. You can really tell that the LAPD, they have this plan and they had it ready to go. And this is them showing their presence as well and saying, we mean what we say. We mean 8 o'clock. And you can see how fast 8 o'clock it really came, and it really did clear out the crowds. And we were thinking, it might take a little longer, but about 10 to 15 minutes into 8 o'clock is when we see the crowd really thin out. And the police officers looks like they are dealing with one group of protesters who are still out there. And I imagine these protesters now, Juan, they know that the 8 o'clock curfew is in effect, as none of the other protesters that they were surrounded by earlier are out here no longer.
If Tom got that emergency alert while he was out there, it's based on geographical location. My guess is other people have as well. And maybe a lot of those people did scatter. They can come back tomorrow at their leisure after 6 a.m. Not a problem. But overnight hours, that is when we've seen cars set on fire, the Waymos set on fire, businesses broken into.
Right, and just really quickly, I want to point out what we're looking at right here. They are going to arrest these people. They just announced on the radio that there are about 25 people that they're going to start arresting. I see those groups of officers with the flex cuffs or the zip ties, if you will, that are going to come in and do that. So LAPD has decided that this group right here that is in front of, I believe that's the LA Mall parking garage, they've decided that they are going to arrest them, and that should be happening soon. Their other group that's up top, I'm sure that they'll set up a plan to maybe take those guys into custody as well, although they'll have to get on the other side of them if they want to kettle them, or if they're going to be in a situation where they're just going to start pushing them down.
Are they voluntarily being arrested, Mike? Do you see any resistance there?
No, I don't see any resistance, but I will say that everything happened so fast that I don't know that these people fully realized that they were being kettled when they were being kettled, right? I mean, they obviously didn't leave right away when the first skirmish line came in, but when you watched how everything kind of happened, they moved in so fast and so, all at once, that I don't know that these people realized how quickly they were going to be boxed in. Not that it's an excuse, there's a curfew, that's the rules, what have you. But it happened all very, very quickly from the time that first skirmish line came in to the time that all of a sudden they're kettled.
That's a trick, right? It's kind of like, shock and awe really quickly, kind of surround the group, and then there's nowhere for them to go.
And sends the message, and I want to give you some numbers, because CBS News has actually been tracking these arrest numbers for us. And as of 6 o'clock tonight, in total, there have been 469 arrests.
Wow.
So the LAPD has made 378 arrests, the Sheriff's Department has made 7 arrests, and CHP has made 84. So those numbers, and I should point out, that's since Friday. So, but those numbers have grown significantly as
since
the days.
protest started.
Yeah, since the protest started on Friday, but the numbers have significantly grown day over day. Saturday was like 20-something. Sunday was another 20-something. And then even just today at one location near the 101 freeway, it was 69.
That's right.
Or 64 or something like that.
Yeah,
by the CHP. So they're significantly increasing those. A source told me that today is also the first day that they have dedicated arrest teams and dedicated booking teams to deal with the people that are being arrested.
And because there are so many people, Mike, where are they taking them? Is there a holding area? Is there a parking lot? Are there tents? Because most likely it's going to be a quick sort of like booking
process,
and release, right?
So right now they're bringing in, we saw the white buses from LAPD earlier. The Sheriff's Department has their buses as well. They are putting them on their buses and transporting them somewhere. I don't know, and I can try to find out, but I don't know if they're taking them to Men's Central and they're doing that process there, or LAPD's Metropolitan Jail, if they're doing that process there, or if there's a makeshift kind of situation that's going on where they're doing it. But regardless, I mean, it is unless you have other things going on, it is generally a cite and release type of situation.
Right.
But when you're talking about mass arrests, even if it's a cite and release, that's going to take a long time. You will be sitting on those buses for hours. You will be being processed
just
for
the volume
hours.
of people, right, Mike?
Yes, just the volume of people and the length of time that will take them to get through that. I mean, if somebody is arrested right now at 8:30, I wouldn't foresee them getting out before 12, 1 a.m. by the time this is all
Probably
said
even
and
later
done.
than that, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Well, our Tom Waite is there on the ground where the people who we believe are about to be arrested are standing. Let's go out to him and get the very latest. Tom.
Yeah, Susie and Juan, Mike, it does appear that there's some action about to happen there. It's kind of hard to see exactly. I mean, you can see better than I can because Anna's able to zoom for you. It's a little difficult for me to make out what's happening, but as Mike and all of you have pointed out, there's a bunch of police kind of blocking and boxing in these folks. I don't know if they know what's about to happen, and I'm kind of curious too, like, are they doing this deliberately? Do they want to be arrested in just sort of a show of civil disobedience? It's unclear to me, and it's hard for me to really, it's getting a bit darker, so it's hard for me to kind of get a sense of their body language or their demeanor. You probably can tell a bit better than I can, and I'm wondering too, just behind me on the other side, we'll spin around, this group of people over here, I wonder what action may be taken soon as well. I mean, they're definitely playing with fire over here in terms of, hanging out here after the curfew, and some of them are yelling things at the police, and trying to antagonize them, I think. Some are being, again, all very peaceful at this point. No one has done anything like thrown anything at them. But it is your First Amendment right, I suppose, to chant and say things. I think just the question is, in these volatile situations, you don't want to be accused of inciting something and so forth. But people here, I think, sort of thinking in their heads, maybe they're expressing their First Amendment rights, being peaceful, and certainly they are. But there is a curfew, so now the question is, will police enforce this curfew with the same urgency that they did is in terms of moving in here and breaking up this crowd and sending people on their way. And I'm just looking over on the other side once again to see if I see any action here with any arrests. I don't see anybody being arrested quite yet. It's hard to tell. It looks like they're kind of just holding the position there in that spot that Mike was talking about by the parking garage. But I do see some action here with police kind of we're basically on this ledge above the street and kind of observing everything from this spot. Oh, you saw me. That's right on the. Oh, there's another group on the other side on the. I believe that's the north-south. That's the east side over there on Los Angeles and Temple. So yeah, there may be some arrests as well. So yeah, we're kind of in this like static kind of holding pattern right now, waiting to see what's next. I think it's pretty safe bet to know that there's probably another wave or column of officers not far from here waiting to continue this operation. And as we've seen, that they do it, and they do it very quickly, to the point where it's like flash, bang, boom. They show up and all of a sudden, they swarm and they take action. So we'll see. I mean, this is a group out here that's being very persistent. Again, just chanting, doing nothing, in terms of nothing even remotely violent but the issue is there is a curfew. So, the question becomes how do police handle this?
Tom, has the National Guard stayed put for the most part? They were on the steps there of the federal building pretty much all day.
Yeah, I have not seen them move from that spot. There's a large group of them in front of the building, but I don't see any movement. They've been just static, kind of standing there. The officers have been very nice to us up here and been very. Was that cool? Yeah, cool. We were just given a direction we have a little more space to walk around. We're just trying to be good reporters over here and help it out as much as we can to not interfere with anything and just let people on either side, whether with police or with protesters, we want to let everything play out the way people choose and not get in anybody's way. So yeah, we'll just wait and see what the next step is here. But there is a contingent of people who are standing here in this area, and I am very curious to see what happens next. I will say this: it is, watching all this play out the last few days, it's sad in so many ways just to see the pain that people are going through in the city. I mean, just the anger, the frustration, the hurt, and to see our city in turmoil like this, to see all the graffiti, to see police in the streets in riot gear and people confronting them. I mean, it's a bummer, and I know that's the understatement of the year, but it's such a sad thing to see this level of tension and between our citizens, our authorities, and to see this play out in such a volatile way.
All right, Tom, we're going to give you a little bit of a break. We want to go to Lori Perez, also there in downtown Los Angeles, covering this first night of a curfew here in downtown LA. Lori, take it away.
Yeah, we're not too far from where Tom is. He's just about a block away in this direction. But I want to show you that the different kind of scene that's playing out just a block away. You can still see there are plenty of people still on the streets. I'm not sure, as Tom was saying, are they aware of the curfew? Are they deliberately just ignoring it? Or are they waiting to see what might go down? So there are an awful lot of people still on the sidewalks here. And then, very busy traffic. It seems we did see people kind of scurrying to their cars, likely aware of the curfew and trying to get to where they need to be and out of this curfew area as quickly as they can. We saw a lot of people, in fact, who we had seen at the Interfaith Vigil up at at Grand Park, people who were still carrying pamphlets from that vigil, obviously headed towards their parking spots and towards their cars so that they can get out of the city in order to comply with the curfew. But here at this location where we are, you can see a lot of people just milling about, taking videos apparently, and just look at this guy. He's up on the telephone pole. Mojo, you see this? This kid is up on the light pole. Obviously not a safe situation for that, but they're just kind of lingering. For sure, word has spread about the curfew, but for whatever reason, they are hanging around and not going home as they should be. Across the way, you can see at the back of City Hall, there are plenty of law enforcement officers standing on the patio there. They have been there for the last couple of days when we have been to here in downtown Los Angeles covering the protests, and then later in the night covering some of the unrest after the protests. So they've been here as we have been for days, and they are overseeing this, kind of watching, waiting to see perhaps if LAPD will eventually start to arrest these people, because clearly there are lots of people. In fact, some people still coming down in this direction. So, you know, it's interesting to see this, and we'll have to see what happens in the next couple of minutes here. But a lot of activity and not quite the clearing out that we anticipated we would see at this time, because you know it's what is it, 8:30? Yeah, so 8:36. So for sure, if these people were trying to get home, they would have made their move.
Lori, have you heard anything from law enforcement there on the ground telling those protesters or people milling about, as you mentioned, to go home? The curfew is in effect?
You know, I haven't. You know, we've heard over the last couple of days when there have been dispersal orders and that kind of thing, we've heard them using the megaphones and making announcements saying you need to get out of here, you need to go home, you don't have to stay here, but you can't, you know, you can't stay here, but you got to go somewhere other than this place. We have not heard that yet. I would anticipate that they will start to do that if these people do not start getting out of the way. But, you know, I heard you mentioning Tom got that alert. We got the alert as well. Our security guards also got the alert indicating, hey, if you're in downtown Los Angeles, there is a curfew in effect. You need to get going. I'm expecting that these people would have already gotten that. But again, they are not choosing to comply.
Lori, just got a text message from our Tom Wade out there. He said that they are making announcements where he is. Officers have gone on megaphones and they've started making announcements. So if it's not clear, if they didn't get the that emergency alert on their phone, clearly now officers are making it pretty clear. He says they're doing it again now. So most likely we may see some more movement. Do you hear anything, Lori?
Yeah, I'm just starting to hear it. Like I said, we're only about a block away from where Tom is, so I can just barely hear it, but I can hear, you know, what sounds like people talking over a megaphone. You know, that's a familiar kind of sound. And we're seeing there were some motorcycles that were up on the patios here. They're coming off, so they are definitely scattering at this point. You know, it's hard to tell, you know, how far people are willing to take it. You know, a lot of people like to think they're tough until, you know, the police start coming at them with cuffs, ready to cuff them. So,
you can hear that now.
Yep, they're saying now, if you do not leave the area now, you will be arrested. So yeah, so you know, like I said, people like to be tough, but when LAPD starts coming at you with those cuffs, we'll see how tough they are.
Looks like those announcements being made over a helicopter or a loudspeaker there while people are on the ground still milling about, as Lori was talking about. Some of these people, protesters, but also some people who are just walking around downtown LA right now and getting caught up in this. Yeah, we can hear that announcement being made. Lori, that's from a chopper?
That's from that white SUV that's driving up the street here.
Oh yeah, we can see that too.
They have some sort of a projection device.
Sure. And this is what we anticipated, you know, when these curfew orders were announced earlier today during a news conference by Mayor Karen Bass. We anticipated that there would be sort of this grace period, if you will, for the protesters to have time to get out of downtown LA. And then after that, these announcements now being made by the LAPD as they drive around saying, it's time to get out of here. We've given you 40 minutes now.
Oh, you know what? A correction. That was coming from that helicopter. There's a chopper overhead, and they are the ones who are making that announcement.
Oh, yeah, we see it now.
Flying right over City Hall there, Lori. Hard to miss that helicopter there. Again, making an announcement that downtown LA is now under curfew that's in effect till 6 a.m. Of course, if you're a downtown LA resident, you live there, a business owner, and you must have proper ID to show law enforcement. You will be allowed to stay, but if you have no business there, you are being urged to leave the area, to go home. You're welcome to come back at 6 a.m. to continue your protesting activities there outside the federal building. But again, the mayor's saying today that downtown LA has just been overrun with graffiti. Of course, we've been talking about these 23 businesses that were looted over the last couple of days, and of just the economic impact that all this is having to the downtown LA area. Just the cleanup that's been ongoing the last couple of days and will continue for the next weeks.
I just saw City Hall and Lori shot, and that's one of the places that was tagged during all of this. Really sad just to hear that. You know, what's happening in the midst of people trying to protest peacefully.
Let's go back out now to our Tom Wade, who's live there on the ground. Tom, any movement with those protesters?
Yeah, it looks like a few of them are now leaving. It seems that some are heeding the warning. They're backing off a bit. Lori, you know, she and I have, she has a great perspective from where she is. She's probably seeing these people now retreating back away from where I am. She's closer to City Hall, and so we're sort of watching them move back now. So we'll see if now that oh, sorry. I don't know if you can hear that, but they are making that announcement over and over again that that if people don't leave, they will be arrested. And they've repeated that message over the bullhorn several times now over the last few minutes. And it does seem that people are leaving. There's obviously still a few people left, so we'll see if police here on scene are willing to let the crowd continue to scatter, which they do appear to be doing. They're making the announcement once again.
What are they saying, Tom?
Yep. I know, I'm trying to hear it. You'll be subject to arrest. Leave now.
Okay,
so
yeah,
it is. It's a bit difficult to hear, but yeah. But you know what? If you look, the crowd now is over where Lori is. You know, maybe you want to go over to her because that's where all the people are flowing over to right at this very second, I think.
Lori, if you're listening to Tom, is that the case?
The street towards us, away from Tom's location, and away from that line of law enforcement officers. So clearly they heard that as you have and as we have heard that saying, you know, leave or you will be subject to arrest. And it does seem, you can see, it does seem that people are walking up Temple Street. Up Temple Street is there's much more parking in that direction. A guy putting on a little show here in the intersection before he leaves. But yeah, it does seem like the bulk of people are moving up Temple Street away from this location. Perhaps finally going to heed the warning from police.
Well, I can't imagine that the LAPD will wait that much longer before they actually start making arrests and actually you know, taking more action, just because of the fact that, you know, this curfew is in place. They didn't just do it just to get protesters out of downtown LA. They said, you know, this is actually, you know, it's law right now. This is actually law. So if the reason why they can make an arrest is because of the fact that this is law, the curfew right now. It is a misdemeanor to violate a curfew. And, you know, if you're caught doing that, I mean, they can arrest you legally. You know, oftentimes you see, you know, the cite and release kind of situation. But, you know, in this case, and they're saying they're going to make arrests. You will be arrested if you stay around this area and you do not belong here. If you do not live here, if you do not work in the area, you cannot prove that you're a resident, then you need to be going home by now. And it looks like a lot of the crowd did disperse, as Lori and Tom were both pointing out. But as you can see, people are still saying and defying those orders and knowing well that they will be arrested, Juan.
Indeed, they're going to be arrested. And of course, As Susie was saying, there is no need for dispersal orders or anything like that once that curfew is in effect. And they are giving you the option here. They're once again making announcements from the chopper that if you do not leave, you'll be subject to arrest. We did see some earlier acts of civil disobedience when people were trying to get onto the freeway there. They were pushed back. They allowed themselves to be arrested. And the penalties for this type of acts of civil disobedience, I checked out in the area of Los Angeles, all depends on the offense. Most likely you'll have to do some sort of community service. There's some sort of fine that goes with it. And based on just how serious it got, if maybe you pushed an officer or you resisted, that could possibly lead to some jail time. But in most cases, it looks like these people will be arrested, booked, fingerprinted, their photos taken, and they'll be let go. But for some, it doesn't seem to matter, really. I think they're just going to push it to the limit, as Lori was saying earlier. It's like, how far will they go? And look at this from SkyCal. We're now seeing that line of officers walking down the street, Mike.
Yeah, that's actually on the other side of the freeway. So Tom and Lori are back on the other side. This is north in almost the Chinatown area that John is looking at. And there's a very small number of people that were here. You see them locked arms right there, those 4 people. And then you got a couple more kind of straggling about here that will likely be taken into custody. And it looks, just based on the way that they're standing and, holding tight to that police line, that's probably what they are willing to do for their cause in this situation and be taken into custody. I can tell you, I talked to both the LAPD, LA County Sheriffs, and CHP about the arrest process. CHP says if you get picked up by them, you go to jail. LAPD is saying for now they're trying to do some field processing where they can basically try to give you the ticket and let you go if you don't have anything else going on. But Sheriff says they're doing transports, and they're doing it for the allied agencies. So if you end up in a Sheriff's transport bus or you end up in an LAPD bus, it is more than likely you are going to a jail facility, which would be LAPD's Metropolitan Jail in downtown, should they need it. Certainly they've got Twin Towers, IRC, Inmate Reception Center, over there for the Sheriff's jail complex. But if you get arrested and you end up in one of these transport vans, you are more than likely going to end up in a jail, not necessarily in a jail cell, but in a jail to be processed, booked, and then eventually released.
Right, and what is the capacity, too, for these, Mike? They're going to be at their limits over the next few days if people continue to get arrested.
Well, now that's what we see when we saw back in 2020 is where then these people end up waiting on the buses, right? And then there were lawsuits that stemmed from that. There were lawsuits that stemmed from people that got arrested that had to sit on buses for hours and hours and hours that filed lawsuits saying that they weren't able to use the restroom, they weren't able to do, other things, they couldn't breathe. People said that they were, very claustrophobic in there. If you've ever seen the inside of a sheriff's transport bus, it's not a school bus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very built-out thing where there can be even individual, cells, if you will, within the bus. So they're not comfortable places to be. And if you get picked up and you end up in one of those, it is very likely that you will be on that bus for an extended period of time while you get processed.
Mike, I'm curious, with this unified command and so many other agencies coming to help Los Angeles, who runs the show here? How do you get the word out to Ventura County Sheriff or LA County Sheriff, LAPD, so that everyone's on the same page?
So Chief Jim McDonnell said that he is, obviously this is within the city of Los Angeles, the city limits. So LAPD is from what I have been told, is running the show, if you will. So LAPD is in charge, but they are having the mutual aid. So the way the mutual aid works is LAPD, Chief Jim McDonnell made the request to Sheriff Robert Luna. Sheriff Luna then lent, as of Sunday, 100 deputies to the LAPD, and then Sheriff Luna is actually tasked with going outside of his department, outside of LAPD, and getting those outside agencies. So Chief Jim McDonnell and his department is focusing on the response. They're focusing on the crowd and how it needs to be handled and dealt with. The sheriff is handling getting allied agencies to come in and help. So it is Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna, who is in his department, that are reaching out to Ventura County Sheriff, that are reaching out to Santa Barbara County Sheriff, that are reaching out to Torrance and Glendale and Burbank, and he is coordinating that mutual aid response, and then they'll tie in with the LAPD, and then they'll conduct that operation. Now we have radio channels where they can all communicate with each other. I think it's the Claymars channels where they can all talk to each other on one frequency and handle this. And there you see in the shot on the left-hand side of the screen, there's one of the transport buses, and that's one of the LAPD transport buses that is being brought in to start effecting these arrests.
Well, incredible to know that Sheriff Luna is responsible for so much, right? You have the LAPD running a show, but he is getting all that mutual aid from the different agencies, from different counties. Just an incredible job that he's doing there.
Yeah, and really just an intense amount of law enforcement officers that are here. I mean, a lot of law enforcement officers that are here. And the normal chain of events would then go if local wasn't enough, if all of the outside agencies that came in weren't enough to help, then the sheriff would request the governor to activate the National Guard. But as we've pointed out, that can't happen because the National Guard has been taken over and federalized.
Right.
So the governor doesn't have control over the National Guard. So, it's not an option for our local authorities to ask the National Guard to come help because the governor doesn't have control over it.
And Chief McDonald's saying today that he doesn't feel the need at this point to go to that level.
Right.
So certainly good news there that the chief of the LAPD doesn't see the need to enhance it to quite the military level here in California.
They're handling it tonight, right?
Yeah, tonight's response is certainly a point proven with that.
Absolutely. All right, as you see there, and as Mike just pointed out, the LAPD bus that usually holds the people who have been arrested after these protests will be held in there, is coming down the street, meaning that we believe the LAPD is about to make some arrests as the mounted unit goes down the street here. Let's go back out now to our Tom Waite, who's live there on the ground with what we saw earlier, two factions of protesters who are being approached by police there. Have they moved forward? Have they moved them out of the way? What's going on, Tom?
You know what? Here's the thing. Okay, they're moving the bus, but I would say take Lori's camera because there's a lot of action going on over there. Lori should take it from here.
Okay.
Yeah, by horseback and on foot as well. Lori, if you can hear us, tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, so they have just very quickly moved in our direction. Whoops, and they are shooting. Whoa, okay, I don't want that. We're trying to get out of the line of fire because, yeah, they are aggressively telling people that they need to get out of the way. They need to go home. They are, in fact, enforcing this curfew. They have aggressively moved down Temple because there were a lot of stragglers there. We're media. Where do you want me to go?
Okay, looks like Lori's getting some directions from officers out there where she and her photographer can be. Obviously a very fluid situation for our crew members out there who have been really trying to give us these pictures and give us the feel of what is really going on out there. But at the same time, sometimes they get too mixed up, right? Oftentimes this week we've been watching our reporters out there giving us these incredible reports, but also suffering some of the consequences of what's been happening with the protests, tear gas in their eyes and pepper balls being thrown their way. And we just have to really give it to our reporters and photographers who have been out there tirelessly trying to get us these stories as they happen.
And we don't want our crews to go between the officers and protesters because that, of course, puts our crews in danger there. But we're trying our best there, as we saw in. Lori, let's go back to you now.
Yeah, I just want to explain what happened. So, I mean, very clearly, I'm doing a live shot, with two security guards. I have a microphone. I have my press pass, et cetera. And despite that, law enforcement, I mean, there's just a lot going on here. I mean, I'm not trying to assign blame, but even despite the fact that it was very clear what I was doing, they were still, you could hear me saying, where do you want me to go? And they were saying, go home, go home. So that just gives you an idea of the temperature of the atmosphere here because, they're trying to enforce the curfew. They're trying to clear these streets, and it can get confusing, and it's dark out, and things are hectic. So now I'm actually quite some distance from where Michael Johnson, the photographer, is. He's still back in the original location where I was giving a live shot before, and then I kind of retreated because once they started shooting those less lethal weaponry, I didn't want to get shot, frankly. So I kind of retreated, and he went in a different direction, and now we're kind of separated, unfortunately. But I just wanted to explain what was happening. I could still see from my location that the crowd, unfortunately, many started to seem to head towards the 101, which is not a good situation. And I could see people running at this point. And they're being followed by LAPD very quickly. So it seems like something is going down further down the street. I'm going to try and get a little bit closer to that. Still staying safe, of course. I'm going to try and get over there just so I can get a better vantage
Yeah,
point.
we appreciate you explaining what's going on there, Lori. We're glad you're staying safe, as well as our Tom Wade out there. And again, things changing moment by moment. We're about 1 hour into this curfew that's going to be in place till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And Susie, we can tell over the last hour or so that we've been on the air that the crowds have definitely thinned out. They move around quite a bit, but it looks like there's a lot less people on the streets right now.
That's right. The LAPD definitely showing their presence tonight and making it known that this curfew is in effect. This is not a joke. They actually went over the loudspeakers, over their announcements, making announcements actually over the loudspeakers from a chopper not too long ago. And that was actually the first time they did that. About 10, 15 minutes ago is when they did that. They actually gave the crowd quite some time to get out of there and disperse. And it looked like most of the crowd did disperse. But as Tom and Lori were both showing us, people are still there protesting in downtown LA and sometimes throwing things at officers still. So definitely a situation that the LAPD will want to handle tonight because of the fact that they know that this curfew is in effect from 8 o'clock until 6 in the morning. And obviously these protesters know that now, as they have heard from loudspeakers, they have heard the announcements. It is not a secret anymore. The secret is out. You know, it is clear that this is an announcement that was made earlier today, and it is certainly in effect now. And in downtown LA tonight, though, we're still seeing and watching these protesters still mill about in downtown LA tonight, even if those announcements did go out.
And Susie, we're watching them there northbound Main Street right now after crossing back over the 101 freeway here. This is kind of the group you see here with law enforcement that have just moved in. LAPD has been able to very, very quickly kind of get themselves into the positions they need to be in to make this crowd move. And every time they do, the crowd gets smaller and smaller and smaller, which, as we've talked about over the last several nights, is exactly what law enforcement is hoping for. They are hoping to get these groups down to as small of a number as they can. John, if you could show us that group that I believe is under the spotlight of the LAPD chopper. Yeah, right there. So they're moving here. This is probably the largest, group that we've got left, and they are very splintered at this point too. You can see a lot of distance in between them as we are almost into the full first hour of this curfew that has been set up in the downtown LA area after Mayor Karen Bass around 6-ish tonight declared a local state of emergency and decided that a curfew would be necessary to keep businesses, to keep people and everybody safe in the downtown LA area, as these law enforcement officers have been struggling over the last several nights to keep things peaceful. We've seen cars set on fire multiple nights. We've seen tagging, a great degree of tagging all across the LA area. But still, as we've seen those in the last several nights, Mayor Bass is very strong and very fast to point out that this is still a very small fraction of the city of Los Angeles. She referred to it in her press conference as 1 square mile in the Los Angeles area out of many, many, many miles and geographically large location that the city is. This is a pretty small relative area to where we are talking about here as this LAPD helicopter continues to follow these protesters. Both of our crews down there don't see any protesters left because LAPD has moved in so quickly to push these people through. The clock struck 8, and within about a couple of minutes of that, the LAPD cruisers came in and started moving people out. They are arresting some people. John, can we go back and look at where that arrest location right in front of the federal building there? I believe it was the Los Angeles Mall where they had brought in one of those buses, those transport buses that you see right there, that white bus in the center of your screen, and they will start doing those arrests. The people that they had gotten kettled in that area right in the entrance of the parking garage of the Los Angeles Mall have been arrested or will be arrested. They're in the process of doing that right now. LAPD decided that about 25 people in that area will be taken into custody now as a result of this. We're going to begin KCAL News at 9.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to KCAL News at 9. I'm Pat Harvey.
I'm Ruta Shabazi. SkyCal over downtown LA right now, with parts of the area now under a curfew.
And as Mike said, a curfew is now in effect for 1 square mile of downtown LA.
And that's where KCAL News reporter Tom Waite is with a look at if people are listening to that order. Tom.
Yeah, some very intense action going on here just outside of the federal building. You can see Mike Rogers was just talking about this, the arrests that are being made right outside of the federal complex. These people have been sitting here in this penned-in area for some time now. I would say at least an hour right after the curfew was announced. They apparently did not heed the orders to leave, and now they are being arrested. The van, the bus, the white bus that they're going to be transported in is just a little bit down the road there, right next to the federal, right in front of the federal building complex. And now they are beginning to make those arrests and bring people into custody. This is a spot where there was some intense and very furious action by police. They swarmed this area as there were a number of peaceful protesters that were here in the area, but then many of them did not comply with the order to leave when it was 8 p.m. And now you're seeing the result of that. Many of these people now being arrested, and they'll be processed, as Mike was describing. So we're just kind of waiting to see how this plays out. It's a very tense situation. A number of these officers aren't even sure who we are, so we're trying to keep all of our identification. I'm holding my mic flag up with the CBS logo on it as clearly as I can so they can see us. They're obviously in a very serious tactical situation here where there's just no margin for error. At one point we were between some protesters and the mounted unit, where protesters from behind us, a couple of them, started throwing things at a officer who was mounted on horseback, and the horse reacted, and it was scary. We didn't know, it jumped back, and then a line of police aimed their less than lethal weapons in the direction of where that was coming, which of course was our direction because the people who did that were behind us. They cleared the area very quickly. Officers got up. We're on a kind of raised plaza level above the parking garage right now, and we're watching the arrests now play out. And you can see just the amount of officers here on scene, and now you can see people being told to put their hands up against that wall, and obviously the arrest will ensue from here. This was also a spot where there was a number of people lingering. Police kept making announcements over and over and over again, telling people to leave. They finally sort of ran from the area as the officers surged forward, and very dramatic to see this all play out. And I'm sure this sort of shock and awe effect of this is part of the operation, right? It's very sudden, it's jarring, it's intense, and it's meant to sort of subdue people or to force them out of the area, and it seems to have worked. There were no major violent incidents here. There were, as I said, projectiles that were thrown at police. We did not see police respond in this spot with any tear gas, or I didn't personally witness any less than lethal weapons fired, any rubber bullets, nothing like that where I am. I think that was not the case over where Lori is, about a block from me. I think she was in the area of where something was fired. It's not clear what. We'll hear from her, of course, in just a second. But yeah, we are just kind of watching right now, police kind of securing that area that you're seeing on your screen. That is the let's see, north, southwest. That's the east side of the intersection at Los Angeles and Temple, and it looks like there were some people lingering there as well. We'll see how that plays out. But right now we're watching as they are staging that bus and getting ready to take people into custody.
Okay, Tom, thank you. And you were mentioning Lori Perez's location. Let's go to her now.
Yeah, she's also in downtown LA, as Tom mentioned, about a block away from him. So, Lori, how are things looking an hour into the curfew where you are? We can hear the sirens.
That's right. And, I would just echo what Tom said. I mean, that movement of the people out of that area was coordinated as any police movement that I've seen over the last few days. And I just want to show you the sheer number of police cars. You see this line of police officers here, but there are police cars lined up for as far as we can see here. We are at Main and Aliso, and that is a line of police cars that are staged right near the detention center, which has been the focus of these protests for the last couple of days. So they are really setting up a perimeter around that. They do not want anyone getting anywhere near that building. And we came down Main Street from our location because we were following the bulk of the protesters or the stragglers who were moved out by police, and they started heading toward the 101. As Mike was saying, they crossed over the 101, and we were kind of following it, and we're following in their footsteps. I think that they are now probably located somewhat, judging from where the chopper is, the searchlight is shining down. They're kind of in that area of that Chevron station where we were 2 days ago. So, you know, moving down towards Chinatown, down towards Union Station and that area. But, you know, it was quite something to see the police kind of make a move and in, you know, coordinated effort, just more march forward towards that crowd. That crowd got moving, and to Tom's point, you know, luckily there was we didn't see at least any confrontation, any big confrontation, physical confrontation between the crowd and the police. So that was good to see, and they have since moved out of the downtown LA area and more towards Chinatown. You know, we'll of course be following them to see what ensues in that area, but it's very successful so far in getting them out of the area where they were, right around City Hall and where we were just a short time ago. Guys?
All right, thanks so much, Lori, and good to see it. And obviously they are achieving what they set out to do, which is certainly thin out the area, get people away from the area. So those, if anybody has a mind to come in and create some havoc tonight, then they could easily spot those people because the crowds are no longer there.
Let's go to Mike now and talk about for us exactly what this area is, this parameter. We heard Mayor Bass earlier talk about how it's 1 square mile out of 502 square miles in the city of Los Angeles. Tell us exactly where this is, Mike.
Yeah, and I'll ask Mike Parrott in the booth to put up my computer in an inset box here. We can look at it, or there it is right now. So I've highlighted it for you. So basically your parameters here are 10 to the south. To the north, you have where the 110 and the 5 meet. To the east, you have essentially the 5 freeway to the 110 freeway. So it encompasses all of traditional downtown LA, the Fashion District, the Skid Row area, Arts District, the Civic Center, Chinatown, all of that. And I also want to point out the impact that the curfew is already having. Tonight, the LA Phil canceled their concert at the Walt Disney Concert Hall, posting on Facebook saying it was because of the curfew that is in effect. So we had another viewer reach out and say, you know, what about the Dodgers game? Well, if you look, Dodger Stadium is just outside of the curfew area there, so that likely will not be impacted as a result of the curfew, but there is still, you know, impacts to this. The concert hall canceled, you know, businesses in the area are likely closing down early just to be, you know, compliant with that. I mean, you certainly would think you're not gonna have a ton of customers coming into the area if you are in the curfew zone. So a lot of impacts, and LAPD taking it very, very seriously tonight as John and SkyCal's kind of doing an overall view for us and looking at where things are. And I'll ask him here in just a second to kind of see if we can see any of that crowd that was on the move. They were going down near the, see a spotlight right there, John, on the ground. I don't know if that's them over there, but they had moved across the 101 freeway, as Lori was mentioning. And so we'll have to see if they pop back up. But yeah, big impacts tonight with the curfew.
Is LA Live in that curfew area?
Yep. LA Live, Crypto.com Arena, Peacock Theater, all of that.
Well, I mean, we don't have any basketball games that are being, unfortunately, just had to throw that out there. But at the same time, people still enjoyed LA Live. So that does make you wonder, maybe they'll have to close down a lot of their operations at 8 p.m., the restaurants and things of that nature.
Yeah, and there are, let's see, I'm looking at Crypto.com Arena just to see if there's any events there. It doesn't look like there's any events for quite a while, but, you know, that's Walt Disney Concert Hall that John's showing us in the center of the screen there where the concert was canceled. But you also think about, too, oh, I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But yeah, Crypto.com Arena doesn't have any events. But, oh, what I was going to say is we just had the Tony Awards on Sunday night. You know, if there was a curfew in effect then, how would that have played out? So, I mean, downtown LA is home to a lot of big events. And, you know, we've at least the LA Phil saying that they're stopping it tonight.
You wonder then if people have tickets to certain venues, if they get stopped by police, they can show them, say, well, I'm here. Because didn't Mayor Bass says, well, if you don't live here or you work here or work here, if you don't have any business here, but if you said, well, yeah, I have tickets to this particular event, they might reconsider?
If the event is still going on, if they didn't cancel it. Yeah, and you know, I think too, we saw this a lot in 2020 when there was a curfew that was issued then as well. I think that law enforcement is while certainly they have a you know, a legal right to stop you if you're in the curfew area, there's, you know, possibly too that they're really looking for who they're looking for, right? I mean, they're pretty targeted with this operation here as we look at the people being loaded up onto that LAPD bus.
Yeah, and we have been watching them from above and from the ground, loading up that bus. It looks like they're holding them against the wall. It seems peaceful as far as we can see from here, and then it looks like they're just going to fill that bus and transport those people. But haven't encountered a lot of resistance as far as we've seen, right?
No, not at all. I mean, it's been pretty peaceful, and I got to be honest with you. I think that the way right around 8 o'clock, the way that LAPD swarmed the area, I think caught a lot of people off guard. I mean, it was the fastest and the most high intensity amount of officers that I have seen since we've started this on Friday night. I mean, they were there like lightning, and they were there fast. They made moves fast, and the crowd, as soon as they started to show up, the crowd immediately started to scatter.